She stood on the dock with her arms crossed, shouting like she owned the water. "You can't fish here, this is HOA property." But I just smiled, lowering my line into the lake I'd bought with my own money. That's when I noticed two bulky guys walking down the path toward me, baseball bats in their hands. Karen's voice cut through the air again. "Take his stuff! Make him leave!" For a second, I almost laughed. She actually thought sending thugs would scare me off my own land. One of them kicked my tackle box, spilling hooks and lures into the dirt. "Pack it up, old man," he growled, trying to tower over me. Karen smirked from behind them, pulling out her phone like she was filming some big victory. Inside, I felt the anger boil, but I stayed calm. If there's one thing I learned from years of dealing with people like this, it's that patience wins. "You sure you want to do this?" I asked quietly. The taller guy shoved my fishing rod into the mud. Karen clapped her hands. "Good! Now drag him out!" The men took a step closer, and that's when I leaned back and pointed toward the tree line. A green truck rolled up slowing, the emblem on the side shining in the sun. State Wildlife Enforcement. The officer stepped out, handcuffs ready, and Karen's fake confidence drained from her face instantly. "Funny thing," I said, brushing the dirt off my rod, "this lake doesn't just belong to me. It's also a protected wildlife zone, and they've been waiting for you." The officers didn't even hesitate. One of them barked, "Hands where we can see him," and the two thugs froze, bats dropping into the grass. Karen's voice cracked as she tried to cover herself. Wait, these are my community guards. They're allowed to be here." The officer shot her a look sharp enough to cut glass. "Community guards? On private, state-protected property? Ma'am, you just ordered armed trespass." Her face went pale, but she wasn't done lying. "This whole lake falls under HOA jurisdiction. I run this neighborhood." Before she could finish, I pulled a folded paper from my pocket and handed it to the second officer. "Deed and wildlife agreement," I said calmly. "This lake is mine, and the state pays me to keep it safe." The officer read it, nodded, then turned to Karen. "So, you just tried to kick the legal owner off his own land with hired muscle on a protected lake?" Karen's mouth opened, but nothing came out. The thugs looked at each other, realizing they were about to spend the night in jail over a woman who couldn't back up her words. I leaned on my fishing rod and said quietly, "You picked the wrong fisherman, Karen." One of the officers smirked at that, then ordered, "Cuff him." The metallic click of handcuffs snapped through the air, and Karen's fake bravado. Karen lunged forward as the officers cuffed the thugs, her voice climbing higher with every word. "You idiots! Arrest him! He's the trespasser! This lake belongs to the HOA! I have the paperwork!" She waved a crumpled stack of printer paper like it was some royal decree. One officer took it, flipped through, and almost laughed. "Ma'am, these are template forms downloaded from the internet. None of this is legal." Her face twisted with rage. "You don't understand. I control this neighborhood. If he stays here, everyone will follow him. The rules will mean nothing." She was practically shaking, veins showing in her neck, and that's when I knew this wasn't about the lake at all. It was about power. She couldn't stand the thought of someone living free outside her grip. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so only she and the officers could hear. "Karen, this isn't about rules. This is about you hating that I own something you can't touch." Her eyes widened, and for a second, I saw fear. She opened her mouth, but the officer cut her off. "Enough. You're coming with us, too. Impersonating authority, filing false claims, that's a crime." The thugs stared at her like she'd just sold them out. One spat on the ground and muttered, "We ain't taking the fall for you." Karen's perfect image crumbled as the officer grabbed her wrists, pulling out another set of cuffs. Her scream echoed across the lake, but all I felt was relief. "Funny," I said, picking up my tackle box. "I came here to catch fish. Instead, I caught something bigger." Karen thrashed as the cuffs clicked shut, her voice shrill enough to scare the birds from the trees. "This is harassment. I'll sue every one of you. My lawyer will have your badges." The officers didn't even flinch. One of them pulled out a body cam, tapped it, and said flatly, Ma'am, everything you've said is recorded, including the part where you ordered men with weapons to assault a landowner. Her jaw dropped. For the first time, she realized every word, every scream was locked in evidence. The thugs weren't quiet either. They started shouting over each other, blaming her. "She paid us to scare him off," one yelled. "Said it wasn't even his lake," the other added. Their betrayal hit her harder than the cuffs. I sat back on my folding chair, rethreading my line like it was just another Saturday. "Karen, you should have left me alone," I said, not even looking up. "I told you before, you don't own me, and you don't own this lake." My words hung in the air. Word spread faster than wildfire. By the time the squad car pulled up, half the neighborhood had gathered along the path, phones raised high. Some whispered, others laughed, and a few shouted things Karen had probably never heard in her life. "Finally," one man yelled, "she's getting what she deserves." Another neighbor clapped slowly, like he'd been waiting years for this moment. Karen's face burned red as she tried to twist away from the cameras. "Stop filming me! You can't post this online!" But the more she screamed, the more people recorded. Her reputation, built on fear and fake authority, was crumbling in real time. The thugs hung their heads, knowing their tough act was finished too. One of the older women from the street, someone Karen had bullied for years, stepped forward. "You told me I couldn't hang a flag on my porch," she said, voice trembling but loud. "Now look at you, in handcuffs!" The crowd murmured, nodding. It wasn't just my fight anymore. Karen had humiliated them all, and this was their justice too. The officer guiding her to the car muttered, "Hope you like explaining this to a judge." Karen tried to jerk free, shrieking, "You can't do this! I am the HOA!" But her words were drowned out by laughter and the snap of phone cameras. I leaned back in my chair and whispered to myself, "Sometimes you don't need revenge, you just need the truth to come out." Just as the squad car doors slammed shut, another truck rolled in. This one wasn't wildlife enforcement, it was a county sheriff's vehicle, and the man stepping out had the kind of presence that made the crowd go silent. Sheriff Dalton, the one who'd lived here his whole life, walked straight up to me. "Got your message," he said, tipping his hat. "You were right, something smelled off about that HOA." Karen's eyes lit up, desperate. "Sheriff, finally someone with sense! Arrest him! He's lying about the lake! He forged those papers!" She was gasping, trying to twist the story at the last second. But Dalton held up a thick folder. "Funny thing, we pulled the HOA's records this morning. Looks like someone's been embezzling dues, filing fake liens, even creating her own enforcement unit." The crowd gasped. As the deputies led Karen toward the squad car, one of the thugs suddenly barked, "This ain't over. She paid us good money, said nobody would ever stop her." His words made the crowd gasp, but the sheriff just shook his head. "Keep talking, son. The DA will love every word." Karen snapped, lunging toward me, her voice raw. "You think you won because you called in a favor? You don't even belong here. I'll find a way to take this lake from you. Just wait." She spat the words like venom, but I didn't move. Instead, I stood slowly, set my fishing rod down, and reached into my vest. I pulled out a worn leather wallet, flipped it open, and let the silver badge catch the sunlight. The crowd went silent. Even the officers paused. Karen's eyes went wide. No, that's fake. You can't be—" "Deputy U.S. Marshal," I said quietly, my voice steady as stone. "And for months we've been tracking reports of HOA fraud in this county. Guess what, Karen? You just handed us everything we needed." The sheriff chuckled under his breath. "Knew there was more to you than fishing." The neighbors erupted again, this time in cheers. Phones zoomed in on Karen's face as she broke down, screaming, "No! You tricked me! This isn't fair!" Her cries were swallowed by the sound of the squad car door slamming shut. I looked around at the crowd, at the people who'd been living under her thumb. "You're free now," I told them simply. "She won't be back." And for the first time in years, the neighborhood felt light. The squad cars rolled away, leaving the crowd buzzing with a mix of relief and disbelief.
For years, Karen had ruled them with threats and fake authority, but now her empire was gone in a single afternoon. Neighbors clapped me on the back, some even tearing up. One old veteran raised his hand in salute, and I returned it without a word. He understood. This wasn't just about a lake. It was about standing up to bullies who thought they were above the law. I sat back on my chair, the ripples on the lake glowing gold in the evening sun. My line bobbed gently in the water, like nothing had happened. But everything had. Families here were free to breathe again. No more fake fines, no more threats, no more fear.